How are you doing? Hi. Great night to you. Doing all right? Welcome to the show. Your host, Hello Neighbor. We go with you until 10 o'clock. Great to have you, okay? Stay with us. Please like and share, and of course, support us in whatever way you can. Now, let me start with a few clips. Atrocious. That's how opposition leader Mark Goldin is describing the government's response post Hurricane Melissa. Mr. Goldin is saying that the government's response to the hurricane is atrocious. Mr. Goldin was speaking at People's National Party PNP town hall meeting in Hanover on Wednesday, and Marky G is not happy. Let's hear what Marky G had to say.
The government's response to this disaster from Melissa is shockingly bad. It is really
shockingly bad, he says. I want to remind you, you see that the World Bank said that the government's response was world leading. Mr. Bolin says it is shockingly bad. Why don't they get better audio coming out of these meetings, man? The audio is terrible. Let's hear if we can get a little bit more of it.
atrocious. When it first happened and the world was looking at Jamaica and all the NGOs locally and foreign came in and foreign governments were paying a lot of attention, things were happening to some extent. But after Christmas into the New Year, people moved on and the people who had suffered the damages from the hurricane felt abandoned. The government has had no cohesive, proper process for getting Jamaica back on its feet, especially Western Jamaica, including Hanover.
All right. I should point out to you that the PIOJ, the private Planning Institute of Jamaica, they say that the economy is recovering and that the Jamaican economy is not in recession. The opposition spokesman on finance says that the economy is in recession. The PIOJ say no, the economy is not in recession. As a matter of fact, Senior Director of Economic Planning and Research at the PIOJ, James Stewart, pointed to improved employment and quarter on quarter domestic product, GDP, growth as key indicators that the Jamaican economy is healthy and recovering. This is a very, very, very important piece of news, you know, because the opposition is preaching doom. Mark Goldin and his team, they are preaching doom. But the agencies of the government are suggesting otherwise. The Director General of the PIOJ is saying that we are not in a recession. We are not in a recession. I suspect the PNP would want us to be in a recession because they could campaign on, you know, the pain being felt by Jamaica. Listen to the opposition spokesman on finance, Julian Robinson.
To close the revenue.
Listen.
Opposition spokesman on finance, Julian Robinson, says the latest Ministry of Finance report shows tax collections are $28.6 billion below target, raising questions about how government intends to close the revenue gap. Robinson says the government's handling of the economy has been too slow, with the pace of recovery failing to meet the hand.
We have had 2 consecutive quarters of negative, which means we are in a recession.
Opposition spokesman on finance has been too slow, with the pace of recovery failing to meet the hand.
We have had 2 consecutive quarters of negative, which means we are in a recession.
Let me ask you something. Give me a second. It's not yet 1 year since the hurricane. And the hurricane took away more than half of the country's GDP. And you expect that the country should be back. Mr. Robinson, go sit down. You know, it appears to me that negative happenings in the country, that's what the opposition want. And you know, there is a fascinating idea, you know. There is actually a fascinating idea that the type of politics that we practice in Jamaica is deeply flawed. Deeply flawed. Because the deepest problem is not simply that a party wants to win elections. The problem arises when winning becomes the purpose of politics rather than the means by which political philosophy is implemented. That is fundamentally important. And if you ever want to know why Jamaica takes 2 steps forward and 2 steps backward, it is because of the politics we practice. The politics we practice is a politics where winning becomes the purpose rather than the means by which political philosophy is implemented. In other words, politics becomes an end in itself. And it's a very negative way that the party practices politics. Very, very negative. Right? In classical political philosophy, politics is supposed to serve the common good, or at least some conception of the common good. That's what politics is supposed to do, to serve the common good. Aristotle, for example, understood the political community as existing not merely so that people could coexist, but so that citizens could live well. You're turning me into a cowboy, man. Who's giving me who's turning me into a cowboy? Thank you, Kirk. The politics we are practicing is an election-oriented politics, and it reverses that relationship. The politics that Jamaica practices reverses the Aristotle idea that politics should be understood, you know, the political community. So instead of asking, what should Jamaica become? The politicians ask, what must I say or do to win? That's all that is happening. What must I say or do to win? And anything that will lead us or cause us to be in office, we believe is in the best interest of the country. It's a bankrupt political idea. And it's not serving the people of Jamaica well at all. Because once electoral victory becomes the supreme objective, then policies become instruments of political survival. Principles become negotiable. And I hope I am opening the people of Jamaica eyes, because pure samphire them are one, Pure samphire. And so the danger is that the political party stops being a vehicle for a vision. I'm going to tell you something. If I were looking for a party to join, I couldn't join the PNP, If I were looking for a party to represent, I couldn't join the PNP. I'm telling you the truth. I couldn't join it. And I tell you why I couldn't join it.
Mm-hmm.
Because the party is a vehicle for a vision. The party is a vehicle for a vision of society, not a vehicle of maintaining political power. There are two different parties in Jamaica, And Cooper's pen has solidified my concept of politics, because I've only started political commentary within the last 2 years or so. I didn't study politics. I came to this kind of fresh and, but I have studied the operations of the party. And I'm telling you that the PNP is not the better party. The People's National Party is not the better party in Jamaica. It's not the better party. The Jamaica Labour Party is a better vehicle for Jamaica's vision than the People's National Party. And I have come to that view over the last, solidified, concretized within the last 2 years. Because electoral victory must not be the supreme objective of a political party. And when a political party stops being the vehicle for a vision, it becomes a vehicle for maintaining political power. And the results there, you see, is that democracy operates on an uncomfortable time horizon. Because the fact of the matter is that a government have perhaps 5 years to demonstrate success. Listen to me carefully. A nation cannot be developed in 5 years. People of Jamaica, a nation cannot be developed in 5 years, while a party only have 5 years. A nation is developed over decades. A decade is 10 years. And when a political party stops being the vehicle for a vision, the vision of the society, and becomes a vehicle for maintaining political power, it creates an inherent temptation towards policies whose benefits are visible before the next election, short term. And even when less glamorous reforms would produce greater long-term benefit, you only need to look at Cooper's pen. And if I may plug something in here, if I may plug something in. Because if you look at how Mr. Holness is governing, you realize that he's not only thinking about the next election, he's thinking about the nation's development. And these are rare politicians, you know. But the Jamaican society is not politically mature. They are not. And which is why I do not get too involved in many of the programs. Because I find that, anyway, you know, political parties are vehicles for a vision, not a vehicle for maintaining political power. Because if the party is only a vehicle for maintaining political power, it will not develop the nation. Because it is thinking short term. What do we need to do to win the next election? Bridges don't take 5 years to build, you know, at least some. You can't build a society in 5 years. Which is why I am of the view, you see, that that Eddie Siaga is very underrated, you know. As much as has been said of Mr. Siaga, he's still very, very underrated. Because Mr. Siaga's vision for Jamaica is what we are living now. Siaga is the man that planted trees that we are now shading the nation. That's leadership. And the Jamaica Labour Party have produced great leaders. The PNP, they have produced strategists, political strategists. They haven't produced any, separate apart from maybe Manley. Manley was a little bit misguided though. But Jamaica has not had the caliber of a Holness. And that is why I don't think he is as appreciated. Because Jamaica don't understand what leadership is about. Jamaicans do not understand what leadership is about. Many Jamaicans are focusing on the next election. And I would caution my friends in the party and the supporters of the Jamaica Labour Party. You see this fourth term idea? Don't get it too twisted. I know and all of us, including me, would want the party to win a fourth term. But don't focus on that. Don't focus on that now. Focus on building the nation. Because if you focus on just winning elections, then you become just a vehicle for maintaining political power. And that is why Mr. Golding gave a very good piece of advice, you know, that the government should concentrate on governing and let the party concentrate on the politicking. Because a government that is concerned primarily with electoral returns may prefer announcing projects over. You remember the pipeline? You remember the pipeline? and that we were going to be pothole free by 2003, those were political slogans. Nonsense. Not even Mr. Morgan, Robert Morgan, can't say that. Jamaica cannot be pothole free by 2030. Cannot. Right where me live. 30 years the road no fix. Okay? So when a government is concerned with only announcing projects, distributing benefits over building productive capacity. Listen to Miss Duncan Sutherland. Cutting up 1/8 of an acre land and giving to 600,000 people. Arrant nonsense. Not talking about a political ecosystem that drives production. You see, like all the teachers' wages, government can't bow to those type of pressures, you know. Reacting to public anger over solving structural problems. Big up Nigel Clark. If Nigel Clark never entered the politics, I'll know we'd are struggling, you know. And what did Clark do? Solve some of the structural problems. And some of them are unpopular. Like the wage increases that the parliamentarians got. Not popular, but necessary. Because how you're going to attract talent into the government. Inaugurating something visible over something institutionally transformative. And that is a faith. What we have had is not, we have not had statesmen. Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall. That's leadership. Statesmanship requires thinking beyond one's own political lifespan. And if the party and the party supporters are only thinking about the fourth term, they will miss the nation. That is something that you have in the back of your mind, but should not be in the forefront. The forefront of the party can't be to win the next election. At the forefront of the minds of the party is to develop the nation.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Let me disrupt you a bit. Guys, please tap up the live. Please get us to 100K. I think they're reporting the live, and so people cannot repost. So please send the gifts and tap us up so we can get to 100K by 9.
Thank you. Yeah. So and that was the problem with the PNP in the 90s. The PNP was a vehicle for election winning. And so they had to keep the tough decisions. They couldn't make them, the unpopular decisions. Right now in Jamaica, you see, there's a piece of legislation that, you know, the changes that are to be made to the Road Traffic Act. And the PNP is saying, hold on to it. Don't push it forward yet. It's populism over truth. This is a profound tension between democracy and truth. There is a tension between democracy and truth because a politician must listen to the people, but must also sometimes tell the people what they do not want to hear. That is leadership. Sometimes you have to tell the teachers, we don't have any more money now to raise your pay. So if popularity, you see, becomes the overriding criterion, however uncomfortable truths become politically dangerous. The politician, therefore, has an incentive to ask, what will people applaud? Rather, what is actually necessary? And this is especially dangerous in a country facing difficult fiscal, economic, educational, and institutional and social problems. Because some solution require sacrifice, patience, and discipline. And they cannot always be packaged as immediate political gratification. So when you hear Mr. Golden talking about atrocious, those are political language. Those are not realism. There is no way that Jamaica could be completely recovered in less than a year after suffering a 50% reduction of its GDP. Cannot happen. And I'm shocked, as a matter of fact, that the economy is recovering as far as the PIOJ is concerned. And so when you hear people like Mr. Robinson talking about recession, that's what the PNP want, the country to be in a recession. Because guess what? They feel as if the recession helps them. Now, how can the recession help Jamaicans? Listen, Mr. Robinson.
Too slow, with the pace of recovery failing to meet the hand.
We have had 2 consecutive quarters of negative growth, which means we are in a recession. We are likely to have a 3rd quarter of negative growth. And the main reason why we have been continuously forward, we know that progress, which brought to them at least 1 quarter. But the very slow pace of recovery by the government is what is contributing to the negative growth.
Now, what the opposition should tell us is how would they grow the economy were they in power? Not to tell us that we are in a recession, but what would they do to grow the economy? Anyway, no recession. That's the message again from the Planning Institute of Jamaica. Senior Director of Planning and Research at the PIOJ, James Stewart, pointed to improved employment and quarter-on-quarter GDP growth as key indicators that the Jamaican economy is healthy and recovering. So while the PNP is out there talking down Jamaica, the PIOJ is saying we're not doing bad at all. Here's a report from Nationwide.
The latest release from Statin for the outturn during January to March of this year. Remember now that for a recession, what we compare is the preceding quarter's performance. And the data indicate that for the January to March period, we actually recorded a growth of 3.3% relative to October to December of 2025. So yes, we can confirm that there is not a recession. We are not in a recession, and it's not likely that we'll experience one for the remainder of this year. The latest...
There you have it. Now, the PNP is saying we are in a recession. The PIOJ is saying, no, we're not in any recession. What has the government said? At 8:45. Sometimes the party and the government drop the ball, you know. I don't get the sense that there is a focused team managing information for this government. I don't get that sense. You cannot allow these things to pass, guys, because, you know, I'm going to tell you something. Hold on. Let me point out something to you, my dear listeners, neighborites. Let me point out something to you. If I can just find it up here on my screen. Let me see if I can I find it. Okay, let me see if I can find it. Okay. All right, let me see if I can. Yeah, it's right here. Oh, no, this is not it. Not it at all. All right, the point I wanted to make to you, you see, is that the next election is not won on the day of the election, you know. People do not necessarily vote when they go to the ballot. They go there to mark an X. I want you to listen to this piece of podcast that I did today. And I don't want to be too critical of the party. But I think that they need to shape up themselves. They are allowing too many things to slip by. You can't have the PNP out there talking about recession. People are listening, you know, and you don't. If the PIOJ puts out the facts, then the government must pin the facts to the PNP lie and show the people what the facts are. Listen to this.
If you do political forecasting, you would want to study Cooper's pen. Cooper's pen is not merely a political dispute. It is a psychological event in the construction of the next general election. Election day is often the least important day in the formation of a vote, because by the time the voter enters the polling station, much of the decision has already been made through the accumulated experiences of the voter.
Okay, you hear that? By the time the voter enters the voting room, the voter would have made a decision through their accumulated experiences. You're winning votes in year 1 and you're losing votes. You're winning votes in year 2 and you're losing votes. It's not because you don't have an election till 2030, Mr. Morgan, Mr. Abka Fitzenley, Labour Party. You are influencing the results every single day, because the voters are making up their minds even as we speak. There are some people, you know, that you can be certain where they will vote. Yeah, not those. But then there are others who are making up their minds as we go along. A little bit more of the podcast I did. Go over to YouTube and listen to it.
Insults, the scandals, the disappointment, crime, leadership style, all of that, the accumulated experiences. The Cooper's pen debate as a political signal, therefore, is not simply who is winning the Cooper's pen debate. It is what did voters learn about the parties from watching the Cooper's pen argument. And that is a very different question. Not who is winning the Cooper's pen debate, but what are the voters learning from watching the Cooper's pen argument? You know, political controversy becomes electorally significant when voters use it as a proxy for something larger.
All right, I invite you to go to YouTube and watch that. I was doing a little bit on telling people that people don't vote on election. You think that they vote on election? No, they're actually voting right now as we speak. You can't allow misinformation to take root in the society. One more thing before I go to my callers who are up here very, very early tonight. Mr. Jackson, that is Mr. Fitz Jackson, put out a statement about the Minister of National Security. Here is Mr. Jackson. One thing with the PNP, their PR is very, very up there.
Comments by Minister. The following.
I tell you the truth. Their public relation, if they were as good as their PR, they would be a better party. But you can't fault them for their PR. They know how to spin. Go ahead, Jackson.
Was released from the People's National Party media unit.
The comments by Minister of National Security, Dr. Chan, on the role of the police in enforcing the court order that led to the displacement of families in Cooper's Pen, Trelawney, is very troubling. While court orders must be respected and obeyed, the existence of such an order does not absolve the state of its responsibility to protect human life and treat affected citizens with dignity. The issue is not whether the court order should have been obeyed. It should. The issue is whether obeying a court order requires the government and the police to ignore the human consequences of such enforcement. Is it unreasonable?
All right, let's not play any more of Mr. Jackson's rant, because Mr. Jackson is, quite frankly, Mr. Jackson has gotten it wrong. And I am not happy with how the party conducts its PR. I'm not happy at all. The PNP is getting away with too much nonsense, man. Not happy. Not happy at all. I see the party, for example, putting out voice clips. They record their press statements and put it out. In today's Jamaica, you stitch it, Mr. Morgan, Mr. Apka, you stitch what the PNP said. You use the PNP's lie and you said, listen to this, and you play them lie. And then you stitch the truth. Give Jamaica the balance. Let the people decide. You know, in China, years ago, they were having a problem with counterfeit notes, counterfeit banknotes. And you know how they train their tellers? They train the tellers by giving them the real thing. You see the counterfeit? It can't stand up to the real one, Give the people the real thing. Just keep giving them the truth. And after that time, the party will be rendered not credible. People are going to see them as, what a liar set of brutes. What a liar them. Yeah? Scratchy speaks about using other people rather than the politicians, because people kind of not trust politicians, Anyway, let me not even. Mr. Jackson conflates three different responsibilities. And there are three distinct questions that Mr. Jackson is not an... Mr. Jackson, number one is, was the eviction lawful? I don't have to answer that. Two, and Mr. Jackson, they have some people in this social media, people like Perry. They lie. Yes, Mr. Perry, you lie. They have some PNP bloggers. They lie. Mr. Man, I don't know. They lie, so tell. Not even Satan himself, not deceptive and lie like them. Yeah, man, I mean, no son no want win. You know, son no want win, but my God, man, you no can do better than that. Jesus Christ, man, if I meet them, I would never shake their, I would never even shake their hand. Because I don't want them lying this to rub off for me. Mr. Man, it's a sick enough a stomach. Tumok, not even stomach. Tumok, sick. You listen to them. It's a, I don't know. I would never shake on a hand. You no lie too much, man. You cannot come up on this program and tell us that we are liars. Because we are not, we don't spin, you know. We speak the truth. Yeah, the truth favors the government, but that is not a problem. People need to know the truth. Jackson conflates 3 different responsibilities. Was the eviction lawful? Answer the question, listeners. 2, who had authority to execute the court order? Who had the authority? And number 3, what humanitarian assistance should be available to people displaced by it? Answer those questions. And Mr. Jackson moves rather quickly from the 3rd question back to the first 2. Because a court order is not merely advice to the state. Because if a competent court has ordered possession to be given to a private party, the executive cannot say we agree with the order, but we don't like its consequences. I wonder if you heard that. If the court gives an order that a man is to repossess his property, the executive, which is Dr. Chan, he is the Minister of National Security, cannot alter the order. The problem with Jamaica, I'm going to say it as raw as me can, is that our people are not properly developed educationally. They don't think logically. We are living in a society with a lot of half-wits, including some of them who are leading. And listen to me. We are teaching children in Jamaica to pass subjects. We need a reform because we have to get people to think critically, logically, and stop thinking with their feelings. You can't think with your heart, you know. The government can't say, oh, we don't like the consequences. What are the consequences of the court order? That the people will lose their house. The court knows it. Don't talk nonsense. The court knows that the consequences of this order means the house them are going to buck down. But how is the man to retrieve his property if the house is them not buck down? And the bucking down of the house carries with it humanitarian assistance that is going to be needed, but that don't mean that the order must not be carried out. You can, you know, I hear people talking about George Davis singing about see people land and leave it alone, and they are criticizing. That's rubbish. You could have park your car in a one parking lot and leave it open with the key inside there, and a man take it drive away. You know, chase the police off of him and take back your car. Come on. The government can't say we don't like the consequences, so we will modify how it is carried out. Can't do that. That would create a constitutional problem if the executive start to meddle in the judiciary. We're going to have problems in Jamaica, and I want the people of Jamaica to understand that democracies function well where there is the observance of separation of powers. It is a fundamental principle that must be preserved. The principle of separation of power is important here. Courts determine legal rights. The executive administers and enforces the law. Politicians are not to get to substitute their humanitarian assistance for a judicial determination. Enforcing it humanely cannot mean don't enforce it. Mr. Jackson, you are talking nonsense. And if this is how the PNP thinks, it means this is how they would govern. And I'm worried about that. I am worried about that type of society where a court order is interfered with by the executive. That cannot be allowed. So Mr. Jackson's formulation sounds difficult to disagree with. Lawful enforcement and compassion are not mutually exclusive. Of course they aren't. But the philosophical question, Mr. Jackson, is where compassion enters the equation. But when you want to win election, you have to spin. Suppose the court ordered, suppose the court has ordered an eviction. The police have to deal with the practical consequences of executing it. They can reasonably seek to avoid unnecessary violence, protect children, prevent disorder, allow lawful arrangements for removal of possession, etc. Which is why the police went in and arrested the men. Well, not arrest, detain them. But there is a boundary. Because if humanity means delaying, preventing, or materially altering the execution of the court order because the consequences are unpleasant, then the police have effectively acquired the power to suspend judicial decisions. You can't give the police you can't give the police judicial decisions, Mr. Jackson. That is not compassion. It is executive discretion overriding judicial authority. Repeat. That is not compassion. That is executive decision overriding judicial authority. The police must carry out the order. Compassion don't come in there so yet. The fact that vulnerable people live there don't change the legal obligation. Now you talk about, oh, there was a 3-month-old baby in a bath. That don't change the legal obligation. Those are separate arguments. The fact that vulnerable people live there no means that the court order must not be carried out. That don't have nothing to do with compassion. This invoking of children and women and elderly. Morally, it's a powerful rhetoric. That's powerful morally. But legally, however vulnerability does not automatically. You could be vulnerable till what? Vulnerability don't create a right for you to remain on property that the court has determined you must leave. So why we don't take vulnerable people in our house? Why? Why we not walk a road and pick up street people and put them up in our house? They're not vulnerable too. Huh? Just go up to the Victoria Jubilee Hospital, man. And all the ladies coming out there with cesarean section. Ask them if they're vulnerable. And carry them over your yard. Morally, that is a good argument. It's a political argument. You can make that. But legally, that is not an argument for the law. Vulnerability don't change the law. Because if it does, then enforcement of virtually every eviction could become discretionary. If the moral argument is to be used at Cooper's Pen, then there is no eviction that the court could order. None, because every eviction, you can put the moral argument on it. Everyone. Imagine a principal saying, the court ordered possession, but because children are present, the police should not enforce it. Because old people live there, can't enforce it. Well then, pack up the whole place of old people and make them stay. Nonsense. Those arguments, those arguments are for the weak. What happens when they are elderly people? What about the disabled? What about someone who has nowhere to go? These circumstances may justify social assistance. And it may even influence how you plan operationally. But they cannot by themselves nullify the underlying legal judgment. And this exposes an important distinction. Because compassion may qualify the manner in which the law is administered. Compassion does not determine whether the law applies. I want you to understand that. Compassion may qualify the manner in which the law is administered. It does not determine whether the law applies. It is very disappointing to hear this piece of rubbish coming out of the opposition.
The following is a release from the People's National Party Media Unit.
The comments by Minister of National Security, Dr. Chan, on the role of the police in enforcing the court order that led to the displacement of families in Cooper's Pen, Trelawney, is very troubling. While court orders must be respected and obeyed, the existence of such an order does not absolve the state of its responsibility to protect human life and treat affected citizens with dignity. The issue is not whether the court order should have been obeyed. It should. The issue is whether obeying a court order requires the government and the police to ignore the human consequences of such enforcement. Is it unreasonable to expect that where an operation is going to displace?
All right. No one died.
May I interrupt, please? Good night, everyone. YouTube, asking you all over there to give us the thumbs up and to subscribe, please. And for X, asking you to repost. Neighbor, for TikTok, we're under restrictions, so I don't know if you could just use the other page, please.
Well, it is. The other page is up.
No, just to take it down and to go live on it.
On this one?
Yes.
What you're asking me to do? Log off this one that I'm on?
No.
Okay. All right. Yeah. So the compassion may qualify the the manner in which law is administered. It doesn't necessarily determine whether the law applies. Jackson's argument risk confusing the police function with that of the welfare state. And this is perhaps Mr. Jackson's biggest flaw. Because if families are displaced, they need temporary accommodation. That is social policy and governmental assistance. It does not follow that the police, therefore, had authority to prevent the lawful owner from obtaining possession. Mr. Jackson's argument effectively risks making the police responsible for correcting every social consequence produced by the enforcement of private law. Police, they must do their work. That is an impossible institutional burden. Now, Mr. Marlon Morgan addressed this on all angles. Can the minister direct the police operations? There was a time when it happened in Jamaica, you know. There was a time when the Minister of National Security was twinned with Justice. Yes. There was a time in Jamaica when we had the Ministry of National Security and Justice together. And there was a time when police got directions from politicians. I think we have improved where the executive, through the minister, directs policy, and the police commissioner carries out the operations. A minister of national security is a political executive, not the operational commander of individual police actions. The Jamaica Constabulary Force has its own statutory and constitutional framework governing policing and operational command. The minister has responsibility for the policy and administrative side of national security. But that does not mean the minister should personally direct officers how to execute particular lawful operations. Mr. Jackson criticizes the government for allegedly treating the police as an instrument of state force. But if the political minister were to tell the police, don't execute the order yet, that would be a scandal. Because that would be the very politicization of policing that Jackson says he opposes. You cannot politicize the police. If police get order to carry out by the court, you can't expect the minister to say no. A professional police service should not receive operational instruction from politicians. The police should operate according to law, lawful orders, professional standard, and operational command. The court order belongs to the judiciary, not the minister. And believe me, Jamaicans, what the PNP attempted to do with the Cooper Spin situation is a very serious breach of the whole concept of separation of powers. Should not have happened. Should not have happened. The court order belongs to the judiciary, not the minister. There is even a deeper constitutional principle here. I'm going to point it out to you before I go to the calls. 916. No, let me see if I can just go live on this. Give me a second here. Let me see if I can just go live on this. Okay. No, I'm not seeing the
YouTube, while neighbors doing that, can you please press that X at the top and just press that thumbs up icon? Thank you.
Well, I don't think that I can do that right now. So, okay, we're gonna have to press on with this for a while. Okay. Imagine the sequence. Party A is legally entitled to the possession. Court says that. The executive, we acknowledge the judgment, but we think enforcement would cause too much hardship. So the police, we will not execute it. That practical result is that the executive has acquired the ability to veto judicial decisions without appealing them. To veto means you override. That is a constitutional danger. If the judgment was wrong, the proper response is to appeal it. Not to politically interfere with it. And not to give instructions to the police. Any day you hear say politicians that give police instructions in a Jamaica, take to the street. The country gone. Mr. Jackson's phrase that the police risk being perceived as an instrument of state force and brutality is a loaded gun. The police are an instrument of lawful state coercion. That is part of what distinguishes police from social work. The police are not social workers. The question isn't whether the state possesses power, coercive power. It does. The question is that power exercised lawfully, proportionately, professionally, and accountably? An eviction is inherently coercive. Someone is compelled to surrender possession. That does not make it brutal. Because you have to give up your house. You don't make it brutal, you know. You can't call law enforcement state brutality. That's not true. When you do that, you risk collapsing an essential distinction between legitimate actions and illegitimate violence. If the police go on the streets and remove higglers who are selling there illegally, that is not brutality. Oh Lord, the people have them picnic for send go to school September and look at the police, how them wicked. No. There is a distinction between legitimate exercising legitimate authority and illegitimate violence. Illegitimate violence is when you're going at the market, go mash up the people, them stall with them beer for through the parish council. It is not illegitimate and brutality when you clear the road of illegal vending. Look at the taxi men. Police say you can't park this up. You block up the road. And if the police try to arrest one, we say it's police brutality. No. A liberal constitutional democracy cannot function without some legitimate authority. Criminal arrests, tax collection, court judgments, evictions, and regulatory enforcement are ultimately dependent upon the state's capacity to enforce decisions. If the Cooper's Pen residents were treated unlawfully, abused, or given inadequate notice where notice was legally required, or exposed to unnecessary violence, those are serious matters deserving investigation and accountability. But if the complaint is simply that a lawful private eviction caused hardship, then the remedy is not for the minister to instruct the police to override the court. The remedy is for lawful humanitarian assistance to get to the people. That is what is happening now. And that distinction is actually consistent with our earlier criticism that I raised about election-driven politics. And a government should resist the temptation to convert every painful legal or social problem into a political opportunity. Opposition should resist it, because the mature position may be politically less satisfying. The order had to be obeyed. Let's see what we can do for the people who are affected. Good evening to you, Member Harry.
Good evening, neighbor. Good evening, neighbor, right?
How are you, sir?
I'm doing good, neighbor.
Once again, member, the opposition conflates issue, put out press statements, and we I don't think we are doing enough to respond to these nonsensical press statements and put out the how fallacious they are. I don't think we are doing enough about it, Harry. What do you think?
That has been the issue of the current administration in the neighbor. Right? It's now showing up as a thorn in their side.
Yeah.
And I'm a firm believer of whenever you have your foot on the neck of anything, you apply the pressure and keep it there. Because you don't know at any given time what form of resurrection may be there in the midst.
Yes.
Right? And as such, finish what you started.
Yes.
End it before you give them any form of survival or any chance. Because, neighbor, a few days in politics and a simple story in politics can do great damages.
Yes.
Especially in the age now where we have a lot of misinformation and disinformation, and even the whole aspect of weaponizing the emotions of ignorant civilians, right? And the opposition knows how to play that ball game. It is something that is engraved, almost second nature to them, neighbor. And I don't think the Jamaica Labour Party itself is doing enough. And of course, the Labour Party and its affiliates, so the G2K and Young Jamaica, who should be energized and should be firing on all cylinders regarding this, because they're making it so easy to give you stories, neighbor, that you don't even have to try.
Right.
You just need to push it out there. And I don't think they are maximizing enough to ensure that the citizens of Jamaica understand the issues firstly, and then secondly, to show up the People's National Party for the liars and deceitful members of society that they are.
Yeah. What is the in your view, what are the flaws with Jackson's argument?
Nemo, he conflates the whole idea, for one, where it is not the police duty or security duty to, in this manner, to go ahead and try to preserve dignity. They are not social workers. They're not social. No, they're not. And we have to understand that what Mr. Jackson has done is to try and remove his party, who caused this issue, by the way. right? They were the ones who interfered with a legal court process between citizens and a private company, right?
Yeah.
It was never one that started out politically until they found a loophole in it and attempted to leverage it, neighbor, for political, within their political agenda.
Yeah.
Now, Mr. Jackson also want to paint the picture as if the government itself, Minister of National Security, had a hand
Yes,
in how things were executed.
or is supposed to direct the police not to do it, or how to go about it.
Exactly.
Can't do that.
And what that does in a neighbor, it shows that Mr. Jackson is also one who is not fond of the law. Because to do one thing, right, the court maker gives an order, and you want the police to not carry out that lawful order, then you don't uphold lawfulness.
Yeah.
You support a lawless government and lawless act because of political gains that are there.
And does this not concern you, Harry? Because is this not how the PNP would govern if they were in power, based on what they're saying here?
It is a blueprint as to how they have governed for decades and how they would have continued to do so, neighbor. Because we see it. How many times does the law have to tell the government, the executive arm, that this is what the law states and this is how we uphold? These are the things that the executors has also placed in. All the judiciary is doing, which is the court, is to enforce what is written on the books. By
the very politicians.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then you don't get the leverage and the chance as the legislator to come and say, oh no, I never that. Don't bother do that. No, it is written. So you can't pull back the law whenever it's convenient. And you can't enforce it when it's convenient to you. Because if that is the case, then we have a wishy-washy governmental system, right? And that does not give the confidence to persons sitting outside of Jamaica and those here to even trust a system. That is the very art of corruption in a neighbor. And that is what Mr. Jackson is implying and also explicitly saying to Jamaicans, those who are able to see it, right? Because the sad reality of Jamaica is that we have a very high ignorance to civic duties and civic rights, neighbor.
Yes.
We were never developed on it. It was never something in the forefront.
Yes.
From the government of the time, and they saw it. The opposition within their reign, they saw it, they exploited it, and they knew that if we kept people this ignorant, if we hid the information and act on their emotions, put more leverage, put more weight on how they feel, then we can always have a chance to maintain our power and wield for minute few and make the decisions as we go along. That is what Mr. Jackson has said, and only a small section of Jamaicans, those who care and understand what things mean and what the process is, where they can't go ahead and play on the emotions of these people. And I want to call them out that, listen, in this time and in the state of Jamaica is not one where any citizen that is a fair of the law, that understands it, who sees these political issues for what they are, you should never be silent on it, because we should be your brother's keeper. And in this time, how you be your brother's keeper is to empower them through giving them the accurate information. Then let them decide what they do with it. But don't leave them as a part of the ignorant state, because at the end of the day, we have an opposition that will enact and will utilize it to ensure that they come back in power. And then all of us are going to feel the pain, neighbor.
Spend another minute or so for me, Member Harry, to say why it is important for the Labour Party to do more to counteract these lies. Because let's call it for what they are right now. They know better. They are telling lies.
Of course they know better, neighbor. Every single one of them that have given a statement, from Duncan Sutherland, Nikisha Burchell, Cousins, Isaac Buchanan, and now Jackson. And we'll probably have 2 to 3 more coming in the next few weeks. They know the truth. Apart from Nikisha Burchell and Isaac Buchanan, who spoke, right, and maybe Cousins, the rest of the persons who spoke were a part of the political framework of the People's National Party when everything happened with Cooper's Pen. They were a part of it, so they know it very well, including Mark Golding, because he was the Justice Minister at the time, who also advised Maurice Guy, who was the Minister of Housing. So they all had a hand to play in this debacle. And to try and save face, they have to come up with lies. And what's hurting them, neighbor, is that them can't remember some of the lies them. So as they tell more lies, the truth appears, because you have to remember the first lie, then tell a lie with the second lie, and then the third lie and the fourth lie. And by the time you go down, they forget the genesis of their lies and put their foot in their mouth, which is what we're seeing. Now, they understand that a very large portion, unfortunately, for Jamaicans, they aren't civic literate. They don't understand how government work. For many, they don't care much about governance itself. And the People's National Party orchestrated the lack of wanting to know these things in the country, because it's because of the People's National Party why we here in Jamaica say all politicians are thief in a neighbor.
Yes.
Right? All politicians is the same. They were the orchestrators of it. And they also know that, hey, because Jamaicans almost innately and naturally think that they don't trust any politician. So guess what? We can tell any lie and they won't check it. But what is happening to them now is because we have this thing called the social media, which is a disruptor, neighbor.
Yes.
Where any normal citizen who doesn't have to be the full expert on the matter, but have more than 2 brain cell, neighbor, and think logically, right? Have emotional intelligence, can click a live, can make videos and put out the truth backed by the facts written in law and policy. So what is really taking place now is that the People's National Party is scampering to try and hold on to us, the section of Jamaicans that are still not yet on board with understanding what is happening in their country, right? And the great aspect of this in a neighbor is that subsection of Jamaica, yes, it's getting smaller slowly, but it is also the reason why we always hear from Mark Golding speaking about their 400,000 people.
Yes.
They're the ones they want to ensure they keep with them, because the People's National Party cannot afford another 2020 where they 150,000 of I presume their people did not come out and vote. That is something that lives rent free in their heads, right? It actually keeps them on the back foot because they are desperate now. They've never gone through 3 terms of not having power, tasting power. They have a new breed that don't understand how to be statesman. They are now having propagandists in the art of their politics, neighbor. And what is beating them is that no matter what happens, they cannot beat this government and this administration on anything regarding policies, on anything regarding performance, on anything regarding development. They cannot. And as such, they will default to try to defame, to spread lies, and give the emotive actions to magnify that from Jamaicans who are still civically illiterate and who, at the end of the day, neighbor, may not have access, as much as we're in a very good time for technology and access to information. They are still yet gullible, naive as well, and just does not take the time out of their day to empower themselves in this manner.
Okay. One more matter. The opposition spokesman on finance is suggesting that Jamaica is in a recession. The PIOJ come out today to say no, nothing no go. So listen to Julian, and then I'm going to play PIOJ and you comment on it for me, please. Let's go with Julian.
$0.6 billion below target, raising questions about how government intends to close the revenue gap. Robinson says the government's handling of the economy has been too slow, with the pace of recovery failing to meet the handover.
We have had 2 consecutive quarters of negative growth, which means we are in a recession. We are likely to have a 3rd quarter of negative growth. And the main reason why the economy continues to flow, we knew we had Hurricane Melissa, which would have triggered at least 1 quarter. But the very slow pace of recovery by the government is what is contributing to the negative growth.
That's not what the PIOJ is saying there, Harry.
Far from it, neighbor. I mean, the PIOJ mentioned over the last, compared to October to December quarter, I think there was about 2 to 3% growth.
Yes. Yes.
In comparison to it, right? Now, this is the same opposition spokesman on finance, neighbor, that couldn't, a few months ago, couldn't provide Jamaicans with any form of solutions or to any form of actions that could have helped us to not just mitigate what would have happened with Melissa, but offer any form of solutions to recovery.
Yes.
This is the said man who came out and put out the fact that, let's put this visa thing and attract people. You've just lost 56% of your GDP. Every and any country on earth would have probably been in a worse off state. It doesn't matter if you're a banana republic, if you're a 3rd state, if you are a developing state or a 1st world country. It is the natural order for your recovery to take off on a slow pace. Because the context to this is we have serious issues. The country has not produced enough. Productivity is not the best. Because it's one of the lowest in the Caribbean, right? And there's so many reasons as to why, right? Now, if you've lost 56% of your GDP and you aren't producing enough, plus understand that the rest of the country is trying to pull this weight, neighbor, and it's asking a lot from the rest of the country, the development will come. The recovery had to take place in terms of the human part of things first.
Yes.
You had to ensure you put the proper framework. That takes months. In fact, we've done it rather quickly, right? I know a lot of people will say, oh no, more could have been done. Yeah, if you wanted to waste limited resources. But you had to do a few things. One, put in the framework to ensure that whoever is giving you money and wherever you're getting the money from, you can account for it. And not just account for it, neighbor. You put it into things that will generate capital expenditures. It has to be able to pay back for itself. So the idea from the People's National Party, for example, to just give MPs $50 million would have wasted resources and set us back even more, put us even in more debt, and we haven't addressed the elephant in the room, which is how do we get back our 56% GDP? Now, Mr. Robinson is not somebody who I would ever listen to regarding finance, neighbor.
No.
And that is just my personal preference, right? Because what he has shown us from just the budget debate is that you're not ready.
You're not ready.
You can't be trusted. Even if Jamaica was growing, neighbor, at say favorable 3%, I couldn't trust Julian Robinson to manage an economy like that, much less one that got hit in this manner. So he has no idea as to truly what he's speaking about, and as such, he is naive in the finance, and also I'd rather say very I can't even find the word. He's delusional as to what it takes to move a country in this state, and we're doing pretty well, right? I know in terms of inflation, for the first time, the BOJ has not kept it within their range, and that was just only for a month. And that is something we have to praise.
Yes.
Right? They've done exceptionally well. They kept it between 4 to 6%. It's the first time it was going to 7. And they're going to claw it back. I have all faith in them. Right? Mr. Robinson couldn't speak on that. They had it for Jamaica to spiral out. But we're not necessarily in a recession. And for those who are listening, 2 consecutive net loss for your economy would be considered a recession. But the PIOJ has stated they have the data, which clearly Mr. Robinson never take the time
to get right.
To go and look at. Right? And that is irresponsible of him as well. And I said it the other night.
That is why I'm asking why aren't we calling them out for these? This is irresponsible. I mean, you know, markets depend on these information. Harry, you are in the financial sector yourself. People, investors, and markets, they move based on what these people say.
Of course, neighbor. Every and any news that comes out for specific sectors, for example, energy, we know what is happening globally. In fact, if you check Europe, I would rather they're Jamaica than they're Europe right now.
Yes, many other countries.
It will cost. It's ridiculous, and these are first world countries. These are countries who are very well run. I would have gone to say well-oiled machinery, but
yes.
They know what they're doing, but they have gotten a bigger hit, almost the equivalent of what we lost, 56% GDP. That's how bad they're feeling it, neighbor. And we managed to be handling it pretty well for a small developing state.
Yeah.
But Mr. Robinson does not want that to come out as the truth. That is the reality Jamaicans are living. But the People's National Party make it the order of the day, something they eat for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, to lie, and lie.
Yeah, and in that context, Harry, how do you position the JTA's pressuring the government to pay them more in the context of where we are, and to think that the opposition has some influence on the JTA? You think that probably this is the opposition pushing it? Because it happens every year.
Every single JTA president, from what I have looked at and seen, has always made it clear they're not fond of a Jamaica Labour Party administration. Especially the current president. If we thought Mark Malava was bad, wait until I hear she going to the negotiating table. And I blame, and I don't normally lay blame on people like this in a neighbor.
Yes.
But I think the teachers, those who vote, neighbor, are missing a very vital and critical piece of information.
Those who vote at the election or for the wage offer?
At the election for the president.
Oh, okay. Oh, yes.
Here's why I say this, neighbor. And I took a brief look as to how the police officers, those who are at their union, how they go to the negotiating table.
Yes.
And so on. I look at the rest of the civil society in that way, well, public service in that way.
Yes.
And I find astonishing that the JTA has missed the mark every single time for the last decade.
Tell me why you say that.
Neighbor, when you have a government that is willing and knows how to grow an economy, and I don't want to point out the fact that Melissa come, Beryl come, COVID and all of that. They gave you a raise before, right? The highest you've gotten in quite a while, because under the People's National Party, it's normally wage freeze.
Negligible.
Right? Neighbor, them love sign wage freeze. Right? And they used to do it happily. No questions asked. Very quickly. And when I look at it and I saw how other unions for public sectors negotiate, neighbor, very strategically, they do it eloquently. They do it in a manner where you look at it and say, okay, if I genuinely want 15%, right? And the government says I can only give you 5%. And I said, all right, how can I get the additional 10%? That may be for those who want to study, maybe you want to do a degree, maybe you want to do a master's. And in terms of concessions, uniform, paid time off. That's how you negotiate and get proper benefits. That may sometimes be more than the actual percentage that you want. But what the JT has missing is that they think you can strong arm in negotiations. And neighbor, negotiating 101 is the worst thing you can ever try to do with a government. Right? Because at the end of the day, you will always come off as an antagonist, as an inhibitor to growth, and come off with bad blood, neighbor. And that has caught the JTA for decades. Well, in the last decade for sure. Because they don't understand that in the art of negotiation, you don't come out blazing and being arrogant and aggressive. That's not how you negotiate, neighbor. I can tell you, you can take anybody from the private sector right now who knows how to negotiate, and they would give the teachers a better deal than any of the past. Of the JTA.
They are antagonists.
Stand on that.
They're antagonists.
They are, neighbor. When you put somebody who says, and this is not verbatim, but they don't have any qualms with the government. They don't like this government, and they're going to make it a living hell. What do you mean?
Yes.
You are leading, and your decision at the table affects thousands of lives.
But why are the teachers choosing better leaders, man?
Neighbor, from what I understand, in terms of the setup, the People's National Party have done very well. They've done very well to infiltrate the JTA, and they've strategically put their people in, I believe they call them divisions or sections, that leads these sections, and they always stand on their own political agenda and on their own business. And we've seen it. Remember, there was one time with police where we saw something similar, and they ended up changing after a while, right? And as such, we get to see how the police had better negotiations now. So they're getting more pay. But not every time the money makes sense,
Yes.
This is sometimes when you can get some time off for yourself to pursue other things, to get resources at your disposal, right? I can tell you, for persons in the finance sector, neighbor, who, let's say those who work with banks and so on, neighbor, a lot of times it's not the money they want, they'll keep the same pay. But you see, if you can pay for them go school, if you can be flexible with their work time, if you can go ahead and
where they? Where they come from?
I think Magic mute.
I read for you.
Hold on, I'm getting a feedback from Magic and neighbor.
Yeah, he's muted now.
All right. So if you can get these things, what you do know, neighbor, is that you're empowering the lives of people. You are ensuring that they're happier. The pay in a move, But guess what? They're more work less hours. They're more productive. They get to look into other things that they may desire. They get to spend more time with family, and these things you cannot afford, because give them the percentage that they want, right? I'm going to be I want to say an antagonist in this manner, neighbor, or provocative rather. Give them any percentage they want. Anything. If them say 50%, give it to them. Right? And then turn around, and when inflation lick, when those who are qualified for concessions cannot get it, because you have to take that away. Right? When they can't get favorable loans elsewhere, they're going to see phenomenal price as to what they have negotiated.
Yes.
And sometimes you have to be logical and sensible. Neighbor, sometimes you can keep these increases down the road. Now you take a 5% this year, you get an additional 3 or 4 next year, and by the time you look, you probably get more than 15% when you're done. But they aren't very smart. They're very political and very emotional in everything they do. And I think the JTA is missing that, and every well thinking. And I truly believe the Teachers Association have a lot, neighbor, if not most of well-thinking people, but I just believe they aren't bold and brave enough to stand up for what makes sense. They've allowed the political agenda to erode the confidence where good sense prevail. And I think it's about time they take that power back. Remove the politics from your livelihood. Remove the politics from making a decision as to how you live your life. Remove the politics that does not benefit the 20 or 30 and thousands of teachers holistically. Because I can tell you, this agenda and this political agenda only suits those who sit at the helm of the JTA who are politically affiliated. And I make no remorse for that, neighbor, and I stand on that. Because growing up, I've seen with the nurse. I don't remember what her name was. That little old lady.
Edith Allwood.
Her.
Yeah.
Was a disgrace.
Yes. Uh-huh.
And the JTA is slowly stepping into that fray. They maybe never did go on as bad as Edith, but the attitude is identical. And I send that message to all well-thinking members of the JTA. Take back your association before Jamaica no longer sees you as credible, viable, and one to take seriously. That is the risk you run. It is not the government you're bad up. It's not the government you're trying to strong arm. It is the perception that people have of you, the respect that they are slowly taking away. Because if you have this type of person, I don't want to associate with you, right? It's clear that your political affiliations and agenda is what drives and motivates you to be where you are.
Yes.
Not for the well-being of your fellow countrymen and fellow workers. It is not.
Fantastic.
And that for me, for good thinking Jamaicans, neighbor, they're seeing it for what it is. And I send that warning to the JTA before it's too late.
Very, very good. Very, very good piece of advice. Herbert Skeen, good night. Herbert?
Good night. Good night. How are you doing?
I'm doing all right.
Yeah. I'm here listening, good convo. There is a lot, to say. But wondering if the opposition party, really truly have Jamaica, the people at heart, or the country on a whole at heart. Based on what Harry said, based on Fitz Jackson, Mr. Jackson and Mr. Robinson, when I do an analysis, I look, I'm not going to use the fruit grape, I'm going to use cherry, bunch of cherry, and they pick one, it tastes sweet, they pick again, nobody hasn't said anything to them. They want the owner to come out and talk so they can trap him. For me, I see that they are trying to cherry pick around the situation, hoping that the Prime Minister will come out and say something. And when he says something that is not connected to what people want to hear, then they say, see there, now that you realize that the government had a hand in whatever situation. For me, I think the Prime Minister and the G2K, I said they may be a bit slow coming now to counteract, but I think my thing is that probably Prime Minister said, don't say anything, just watch and let it play it out. When everything comes to the end, then we can come out and say this, because very soon all of them will come out and say something. At the end, notice how Mr. Golin pays his word. Government have to do something. He said in a way that, it don't look the common man makes the boy, accusing the government. It seems like he's, asking the government to assist, even though it is wrong. But, if the Prime Minister should come out and say anything that is not making sense, he can say, see there, I tell you that he know about it and they could have done that. But neighbor and listener, I'm better sure when the Prime Minister comes out, see what he's saying, his investigation, whatever he get from what come to him, and he analyze it and advise him, the situation, what best can be done, what can see. He's gonna come out and say, okay, let us have a discussion around this. Understand? So I think, as I said, Mr. Jackson just throwing word, hoping that Dr. Chang would come back and say this. But Dr. Chang said, but not in the business, the police is doing their work, their duty, because if it was him and he owned the place, he would have seen the police. He could give him the order. He would have asked for the police assistant.
Yes.
You would be thinking about, he's thinking about the money that he has to spend in court. He's thinking about how he can recoup those loss. Who gonna pay him back the money he paid the court and pay the bailiff?
Yes.
He must be honest to himself and said, okay, they must be honest and said, okay, we made a wrong decision. We're sorry it was like that. But I think, neighbor, you remember that situation in St. Catherine where that lady come out and cried that she buy the land and only find out, some bandul thing come and you pay for land. No doubt, at that same land in Cooper Spend could be that some money maybe have paid. Some of those persons may have paid some money. Understand? So we're just hoping that, culprit maybe get caught. After the investigation, we will see and hear who is behind all these things.
Yeah, you sound like a mature man, sir. Are you in Jamaica?
Yeah, man, I'm in Jamaica, man.
My brother, the fact of the matter, you see, is that the politics, as I pointed out earlier, that is being practiced by the PNP is just with an eye on the next election. It is a party that has become a vehicle seeking power, not a vehicle for executing the vision of Jamaica. When you look at the arguments surrounding Cooper Spend, I ask you, sir, what does it tell you about the PNP?
Neighbor, you bought a car, brand new car. You've been driving it all, a good car, race it, run taxi, do all these things. And your friends and your family and your neighbor said, okay, it's a nice guy. And the car begins to break down. Little by little. And everybody loves the car. Even your enemy loves the car. But you're not paying attention that what you are doing is destroying the car, not repairing it in time when it needs service. The wheels are worn, you're not replacing them in time, ball joint. And for me, I think they need to sit back, analyze their action and say, okay, in the same thing we use this, it's not good enough. Let us come with something. How can we build back the party? Focus on building back the party than focusing on winning election.
That is true, right?
They may win election, and when they win it, it's like they are caught off guard, don't know what to do.
They don't know how to govern. They're not preparing to govern. They're preparing to win.
To win, and that they're going to place the wrong person in the wrong position, and And for me, neighbor, if they should win the election, I don't think Julian Robinson gonna be the finance minister. I'm sure of that.
You don't think him ready?
I'm not saying ready, but based on Mr. Golden, I think he just using him now. People like Julian, but I don't think he gonna be the finance minister. I think he has some.
But maybe you're going a little too far there, sir. But then, where am I going to win, sir? They can't win no election, no, man.
No, I'm just saying it, If you just picture them, in government.
Oh, you want, hold on, but that is not a good symptom. To picture them in government, don't want to picture them. Don't want to picture them. That may give the listeners a bit of
when I do the evaluation, I just think
yeah.
They
Hypothetical, eh?
Yeah. And as I said before a few days ago, Prime Minister must deal with this thing straightforward and honestly.
Yes.
Because I have a piece of land. And if
you have a piece of land in Jamaica, yes, sir?
Yes, sir.
And
it's for my kids, and I don't want things in him say things that give people the right. They must take people things because people not paying attention to it.
True.
You buy your car, you put it down, you did how much years? 10, 15 years. If a man go pick off something when you're rotten, and he does the man go take up, you got camera, call police on him.
Yes.
That's how it should be. Your kids are young. Probably your kid may not deal on it, but your great-great-grandchildren may want it, which is about 10 or 50 years down the line. God, man, they need to do something about that. And the opposition party, they need to just chill. Do not come out and say anything about this. Just humble and just admit that there was a mistake made that should have never been made. And that, how can we go about dealing with this? Yes, the owner have a right to his property. And as Ari said about the JTA, honestly, when you place political, not people who are politically aligned in high places to support your goal or your idea or your ideology, your goal, neighbor, what it does, it destroys the fabric of the nation. What we gonna a party come in and said, okay, all right, say for example you're working at a company, employ two person, and when two supervisor, and the worker said, I like this supervisor, and they will do anything for that one supervisor, and another supervisor, don't do it like this, because if you do it this way, we're gonna have some issue, and the workers may take offense. Why you don't like me, or you don't like them, where you want to fire me. But the other supervisor is trying to let them know that you can't. If you don't do it this way, everybody gone out of work.
Yes.
And maybe you lose work as well. And see these opposition parties like this. And what they have done in the past, placing person who had the party, not the country, the party interest at heart, is very deceiving.
Very deceiving. Yeah, have to leave it there though, Hubert. Thank you so much.
Okay, neighbor.
Bless you. Thank you too. Yeah. Thank you too, sir. Astute Affluence. You've been waiting a long time. Sorry about that, man. How are you?
No problem, neighbor. I'm doing well. I'm doing great.
Yes. Where you want to start?
I want to start with Fitz Jackson.
Yes.
The statements or the message he was trying to send is troublesome.
Troublesome,
The reason being, what he's tacitly promoting is a threat to the very system and structure of governance, because essentially what he's saying is a member of the executive arm of government should intervene.
Yes.
In another arm of government, being the judiciary. And the very purpose of setting up these arms of government is to separate powers. So one individual from one arm cannot sway or dictate the movement of the other arm, because that can be very dangerous. What that means is I can be a politician and I dictate how laws are made to benefit me. Or when those laws that I made, if I am found to be in breach, all I do is just speak to the judiciary and I'm scot-free.
Uh-huh. which is why, astute, there is a concern that Jamaica cannot go to the CCJ at this point. That's why.
Yes, definitely.
That is where the concern will there be will there be interference? These conversations are not the numbers driver. They're not emotional, they're not emotive, but they are so fundamentally important, you see, because it speaks to the type of society in which we are going to live. You understand me, sir?
Most definitely, neighbor. Most definitely. That's why I wanted to start there. I also wanted to point out that the sentiments he shared is on brand with the People's National Party.
Uh-huh.
Because remember, at one point under their government or their governance, when their party formed government, was the head of the executive. The head of the executive. The country was seen as one of the most indebted countries in the world. The corruption prevention index was at its lowest it's been. And when they talk about crime, especially unalivings, we were considered the unaliving capital of the world.
Yes.
All while an economy was going down, while they were rife with scandals.
Uh-huh.
So the very corruption that they're tacitly promoting, they would have been on brand to be perpetrators of that very same corruption. It's almost like a full circle moment. And neighbor, it is so concerning. It should be concerning to every single Jamaican. Now, you made a point about members of society being underdeveloped educationally. I think that is euphemistically putting it, but okay, we'll work with that. So many half-wits out there. Neighbor, I want to segue into the teacher's salary, if you'll allow me.
Yes.
I see several teachers supporting the position of the JT. And I'm saying, do they understand that government giving them an increase can have a significant impact on inflation? And you will end up, the purchasing power of the increase can be deemed worthless if you're spending more money in a high inflation environment. Like a lot of the teachers, them don't even know simple economics. And I don't understand, how can you support a position? And Harry aptly pointed it out. If this were a member of the private sector, I believe they could have done a much better job. But because these people are politically motivated, they throw every other thing to the wind in the effort to forward their political agenda. It's almost like cutting off their nose to spite their face.
Yes.
I don't understand it. So the teachers have to understand also.
Just a second here, my brother.
Sorry. Go ahead. What's happening?
There are the teacher who teaches economics.
Yeah, maybe one or two.
So as you said, they should have known until, look here, take it. So as you said, my brother, they are politically motivated. They are not interested in this government.
Well, Herbert, I'll put it to you this way. How many of the teachers who teaches business subjects have a business? I'll leave it at that. Go ahead, ask you.
I understand. Okay. All right, go ahead.
Right. Thank you. So yes, neighbor, you will be frightened that statement rings true. The statement you made about half-wits. rings through, even through. I don't even want to say it because that's an indictment on the education system that I am depending on to raise my children and to teach my children critical thinking skills. Thankfully, though, neighbor, I must say, before I move on, that through PEP, I have seen children, children, prepubescent adults. Let me say, PEP started, no, so still high school to maybe sixth formers. I see their level of reasoning have been elevated, believe me. I've been having conversations with children. And when them I say, no, but that don't make no sense. I marvel to show you how the bar is low. The bar is extremely low. When a child can say, but that don't make no sense. That's simple like, when I talk to my daughter about something, I say, what do you think about this? She said, huh? That doesn't make any sense. So I say, how you can understand that? And adults who are vote cannot. So I must say that things are improving. Things are improving. Now, I just want to touch one final point, and it's a Cooper's payment issue. I think it's been belabored, but I still think it is being used to score political points. And I want to touch on it briefly. Now, you gave an analogy with a vehicle, and I think it's a perfect parallel where a vehicle represents property, but just not to the magnitude of land. And the same way how you wouldn't want to have your vehicle and somebody just boom, take your keys, drive off with it, and claim it as their own. You wouldn't want that for land. Now we know that there are certain nuances like adverse possession, which there's a criteria to be met. You can't just go and say, all right, I'm my land now. No. Criteria has to be met, then a process starts. While that is nuanced and different from a car, it's the same acquisition of property we are talking about. Now, I am saying, with where we want to go as a developing country to developed status, that kind of mentality cannot be taken to that place because, again, it is an affront to the very establishment of law and order. And without order, it is chaos. And in a land of chaos, we have highest debt in this side of the world. We have unaliving capital of the world. We have scandals galore. We have an undereducated population. We have a GDP per capita of $700. We can't afford to go into the future with that, neighbor. And as a consequence of that, if these same people who are talking about come here so we can't be squatted should get an opportunity to fly and they take it, they have to abide by the the developed standards of living. And they will do it. And I know Jamaica can get there. We just have to keep on pressing on. Now, finally, as it relates to the point about the Prime Minister or the government, I'm not saying the Prime Minister, the government not moving swiftly enough to combat the lies. I see a chess match being played. And what I see happening is Jamaicans tend to be forgetful. Because I can't believe the people who were around in the 90s when FinSac was happening, when people could have hardly find food to eat, I said, these times are worse than those. I remember when I was going to high school and I wanted a summer job, there was none to be found. None to be found. None to be found. If you never have a parent to work in some big corporate company where as a part of their, because they probably want to get a tax break, them hire some interns for the summer as a part of good corporate governance and, wanting to give back. And them, you can never have them kind of links there. And I might know two people in all my life. Because where I'm from, most of the people were would have called at risk or unattached or underprivileged. We had to get it out of the dirt. And now we have people in high school who have an opportunity to get summer work, who have an opportunity to learn a skill from in school, to go to heart at the age of 17 or 16. No, I think at 16 are the youngest. And learn a skill for free. I never had that opportunity. So neighbor, I must say, I see what the Prime Minister, I think I see what he's doing. He knows that Jamaicans are 9-day talk people. And what he's doing is, while he's putting in the work, there's going to be a machinery, something that comes out, I believe, because I've seen it. Something will come out and put everything side by side and say, you know what? This is the truth. This is the lie. This is the truth. Remember, at one point in the neighbor, they chastised the government for being a PR party. You know, all them do is PR, all them do is PR. Yet them copy the very PR party and boast that their PR machinery. The same with the 1.5 income tax threshold. They chastised it. Then at the same time, they came on a campaign for $3 million income tax threshold. And when asked, how will it be funded? What did they say? Organic growth. So imagine if the PNP was in leadership, expecting organic growth, and Hurricane Melissa hit. Would I in a big problem, neighbor? Rest this up.
All right. Thank you so much. I wonder if I have any other callers without 18 after 10 o'clock. So the fact that people are vulnerable doesn't change the legal obligation. Vulnerability does not change the court's order. Okay? Now, if a patient is sick and goes to the hospital, the doctor cannot delay administering the medication because it is painful. The doctor can't go into the operating theater with compassion. The doctor have to go there to execute the operation that is going to correct the patient's dilemma. We have to be careful that we are not conflating the issues. That does not say there is no compassion. It does not apply in this case. The compassion have to be dealt with after the law has taken its course. Good evening, caller. Good evening, caller. Caller Lincoln Dixon. No. Thank you. So we have to understand that the morality is rhetorically powerful. And that is what Jackson relied on. The morality of the situation. Because that makes uneducated people, undereducated people, civic illiterate people say, oh, there's a baby here that is 3 days old. How can you do that? Huh? You know, I could take you to the Bible and show you that even God operates like this, you know. Were there babies in Sodom? You know the story of the Bible. You are a Christian. Were there babies there? Pellucid Perry, you're a man of God. Were there babies in Sodom and old people? What about the flood of Noah? Were there old people? Were there vulnerable people there? Why were they not taken out? Why were the babies not taken out? First. And let me ask you a question. There have been incidences in life, tragedies. Airplanes have fallen out of the sky. Boats have sunk. Cars have crashed. There were vulnerable people in them. Why were they not saved? Morally, it is a rhetorically strong argument. It plucks your heartstring. But that's not how the law operates. The law don't operate on the morality of the case. Vulnerability does not seize a right to remain on a property. If that were so, people would live in hospitals. Why them send home the people them on them sick? Them not recover yet. Why is the boy? Why them send home the man here? And let me ask you a question. Why you bury your dead? Oh, they look so nice. They look so nice in the casket. Look at him. Look at him in the casket. How he looks so nice. Why you buried? Since as you are so compassionate, don't bury your dead. Keep it now. Good evening to you, caller. Joan. Good evening, caller. The court ordered possession, not because children are present, and because children are present, the police must not enforce it. So why then? Let me ask you a question. Why is it that the father who commits murder is arrested and charged and sentenced? Him not have picnic. You can't commit murder and then you go tell the judge, say, you know, say I have a 3-day-old baby. You can't send me away now because who are going to take care of a 3-year-old baby? Or you're going to tell the judge, say, you know, Your Honor, my wife just had a cesarean section, so I can't go to prison. No. The judge not busy with that. You go serve your time, and the government and the social services will take care of your baby mother. You can't, that's not how things work. You just kill the man, and you are to be sentenced, and part of your defense is, I leave my baby home in a bad pan, 3 days old, and my wife just had a cesarean section. Have mercy upon me, Your Honor. Nonsense. Nonsense. And because of that, the police must not enforce it. So you're driving down the road in an unlicensed car, no insurance, no fitness. And you tell the police, say, officer, my granny sick. And my granny sick, so I can't go to hospital in an unlicensed car, not insured. And the police must say, go along, because your lady sick. Really? What happens when elderly? Oh gosh. I tell you, compassion may qualify the manner in which the law is administered. It does not determine whether the law applies. The law applies whether you have a 3-month-old baby or you don't. Doesn't matter your age. Do I have anybody else online, Molly? No. If not, Harry?
Yes, neighbor.
University of Vegas. So Harry, we are into very, very philosophical stuff, but this is exactly how it is. Don't you remember?
Neighbor, to the T, right? And I know we're going to ensure all the I's are dotted and all the T's are crossed as we go along. Because what we're truly getting in a neighbor, and I hope Jamaicans see it for what it is that the opposition is trying to run away from the whole aspect of accountability and also how do they put forward a strategy to ensure that we see an alternative. Because the administration has had what? Two of us spoke on it. Dr. Chang, the Prime Minister, has given a speech regarding it. So roughly 3 to 4 persons from the administration have spoken. It is almost going to be doubled the amount of persons spoke on this said issue from the opposition. And not one individual has put forward how the opposition would have handled the said matter that they created.
Yeah. By the way, remember, isn't this the same reason why we have the proliferation of illegal vending all across the country and the police can't do nothing about it?
Of course.
Is that the same problems where we have taxi men parking in unauthorized areas, and if the police ever try to remove them, you hear say police abuse?
Neighbor, it is a reality in Jamaica. That's exactly how it goes.
And then we wonder why we have made much progress. Member, we have to obey the law, and if the police should go into Spanish Town right now and clear the street, clear Main Street, a problem up there. You don't hear say a police brutality and police wicked and government wicked and government don't want people to survive and government to fight against people. Harry, we have some serious discussions to have in this country, you know, Harry. If we're talking about Singapore and Dubai, those countries don't operate like this, Harry.
Neighbor, those countries, even to the toddler, is taught to respect and abide by the rules. And these rules start from the household straight to the laws of the land itself that are written. Right? What we're seeing in Jamaica, and Marlon Morgan said it very well, neighbor. Jamaica is one of the freest countries in the world. And I think that is a problem. Or it's being proven to be a problem. Because here's the thing, neighbor. And it's a human thing. If you give humans too many choices, them choose fast. Right?
Hold on there, Harry. I see somebody over YouTube saying that this is some demonic reasoning. We protect little babies in Jamaica. And I am going to ask that caller if Sodom and Gomorrah was cleared of little babies before it was destroyed. And at the flood of Noah, were babies taken out of the society and placed in the ark? You see, when you come to discussions of law with morality, sir, then may as well we lock down the courts. We don't need the courts. We don't need the courts. Courts are not there to uphold moral standards necessarily, you know. Courts are there to interpret and apply the law. And I ask you, caller, whoever you name, if a man commits murder and he goes to trial, is part of his defense, I have a 3-day-old baby. Does that impact the sentencing? Can he say to the police, don't arrest me, sir, because my baby mother just had a cesarean section? Should that impact the judge? Should it? Okay, you don't want me to go to Sodom. Okay, so answer me this question. If you drive a unlicensed car, no insurance, and you lick down somebody because your baby mother was pregnant and taking care of baby and you have to rush her to the hospital, so you put her in the unlicensed car, should you be absolved of the responsibility simply because you were carrying out a humanitarian act? Answer me that question. Answer me that question. Should the society pardon you because your baby mother take down for her baby and you were rushing her to the hospital in an unlicensed car and the car licked down somebody and they lose their life and now you need to face the consequences? Should you be absolved of it? Answer me that. Because what you are arguing is that we don't need the courts. And that is the same argument with Mr. Jackson. That's the same argument Mr. Jackson is making, that the people cannot be treated in that way. That's a different argument, sir. That is a different argument. Don't mix up the two of them. And that is why a lot of Jamaicans are being deported, and not only Jamaicans. Should the United States keep illegal immigrants in its country simply because they are human beings? Yeah? Isn't it inhumane to deport people? Is it inhumane to arrest, charge, and imprison? Is that inhumane? Come now. Go ahead, member.
Neighbor, I think that person wants to conflate and to confuse persons regarding morality and legality.
Uh-huh.
Right? Because I've been in the position, neighbor, where my father was ill, took sick, faint away, and I was rushing to get in. 120 in a 80-mile zone, right, on the toll. And I was pulled over by the officer. And my argument was not because my father's sick. I simply said, officer, can you expedite the ticket for me? Because I have an emergency.
Ah, yes. Wow,
right?
That's great.
That is not me asking for my responsibility to stick within the speed limit.
You told the officer to hurry up and write the ticket, give you.
Yes.
Oh, you're a solid young man. Yeah.
And I knew what the cost of the ticket would have been, right? And the officer wrote the ticket, and my priority was to get the sick to where they needed to be. I'll deal with the legal aspect of it afterwards.
Thank you.
Because I know what I was doing was not in accordance to the law. And what we fail to get as a lot of Jamaicans, just like our love freeness and all of that, they know when things are wrong, neighbor, and they know the truth, right? There's a level of consciousness within individuals where, neighbor, when you do something wrong, you know.
Yeah, and I like where you're going with this, member, because right across Jamaica today, there is this level of indiscipline and disrespect for the law. Look, for example, at where people sell harm. If you go into Spanish Town, I mean, not only Spanish Town, but any town in Jamaica, you know, see people just spread out all over the place that sell Harry. That is against the town planning act, But if the police ever try to intervene, right, is a problem. What are we to do? That when
creates an issue in a neighborhood.
Yeah,
that creates a hazard for how you move around and handle emergencies.
And security, absolutely. When I was working at a particular place, the police brought 1 cart load of produce to me. So them take it away from a lady. 1 cart, yam, banana, whole heap of something, man. And I kept it for a while. And then I saw a little lady turn up the morning and say, crying, say, am I something them then take away? No. The fact of the matter, Harry, is that she was selling in a space that she was not supposed to be in. Now, should the police have had compassion? Is that a moral issue? The police is not to take away her goods. Is that what you're going to say?
Because this is the position also in a neighbor. It puts the police, who is a part of the judiciary now, who enforces the law, in a position for others to look at it to say, "Well, you know, do your work."
Yes, right. Absolutely. And the police are blamed every day because they're virtually powerless in a lot of, I have had many conversations with policemen, and you should have talked to them and hear what they think about the system that day. Some of them say they have a basket, they get to carry water, because you're asking the police to police a society that is indisciplined. Right? It is indiscipline.
We have a society that is are very quick to demonize the law enforcers, meaning you not see nobody because when I'm growing up, to how lawless Jamaica is, if the police is doing something, and I'm not saying they always get it right.
By the way, Harry, the caller is misrepresenting you. The caller said you asked, the caller just proved my point. He asked the officer for compassion, and the officer did. You never asked the officer no compassion.
Neighbor, listening is the reason why I got given 2 ears though.
Yes, you see. Yeah.
I'll say to that person who is commenting, neighbor, to listen with intent and to respond to when you're commenting, listen to answer and not listen to respond, because there's a difference. Communication goes through a channel, and I think somewhere along the line in the medium, something faltered for that person. And I would advise them in the future, very near future as well, to do themselves some justice, to listen more, to comprehend what is said. And if you don't comprehend it, which you know when you don't understand something, ask for clarity, ask for additional information. It doesn't take anything away from doing so. In fact, you walk away being admired more.
Yes.
Right? But to go back to the issue, neighbor, we see where every and anything police does, you see videos, multiples of videos. But when criminal activities are being taken, are being done, you can't find even one little props of video.
Yeah, which leads me to this. Cooper's pen, Harry, is probably a symptom of a larger societal problem that we're having in Jamaica. How is it that we are going to address the whole matter of indiscipline? Because squatting is just a fraction of our problem, Harry. People are squatting on the roadside. People are there's a man who told me, that he set up a little business and he must sell a few little stuff. And a man come in at the bus stop, come and do the same thing. Now the man appear rent, light, water, staff, and taxes. And a man come close down in business with a little, with one stall in at the bus stop, Harry. Since the government need to address some of these inequities in the society.
Neighbor, it has, and it was bred through how the lack of proper governance, because that has always been the breeding ground for what we're seeing, right? When you don't do your job as the system that is placed there, when the executives have failed to modify, have failed to enact and also to enforce the rules of the land, neighbor, and to put proper policies and good governance in developing the welfare of people, right? Not a handout kind of thing. When you develop the welfare of the people and grow an economy, people become more responsible in how they act, in how they think, neighbor, and how they operate with the law.
Yeah. Yeah, then that is no incentive, Harry, for a man to abide by the law, because if you abide by the law, you get shafted. Now, why should you rent somewhere, pay tax, register your business, only for a man to set up a stall right next to you and lick away your sale? How does that encourage small business in the country? And this is part of the problem we are having. It's the same thing that is happening down there at Cooper's Pen.
Exactly. Neighbor, we see day to day. It doesn't matter what town you go into, right? We see it when it comes on to transportation. And I love use Spanish Town as an example, because very few people use the bus park, you know.
My God, what a failure of leadership there, Harry.
Neighbor, I am waiting for the day that Jamaicans can hold the mayor and past mayors accountable for the failure.
I think the JUTC bus them got turn over. Mrs. Son deep hole in the road down up a Spanish Town there. Just to go down to the bus park. Me don't know how the bus them drive panic. Mighty God. No, sir.
Neighbor, I went there a month ago, and a normal little shortcut I would take to come back around on Young Street. And I see a little puddle. So I say, you know, my vehicle is high enough, neighbor. When the car go down, the car gonna come back out.
Oh my goodness.
And these are roads I would have known from, as my grandmother said, from a little bit a boy. That shows the failed state of leadership, of politics being played at the highest level, and an attempt to suffocate the people and control them, neighbor. Because when I look at how Spanish Town and the potential it has, I've spent easily, neighbor, 2.5 decades of my life, and I am not a old person by any stretch of the means, but I've spent that long, so I've seen the degradation of Spanish Town, and I'm looking at it to see an attempt by main government, by central government, to usurp the parish council and give Spanish Town little life again, a resurrection at its best. And I always draw on it, neighbor, because it shows you clearly a melting pot of a ticking time bomb. Because you see the cultural problem there, you see the political agendas there, you get to witness the level of socioeconomic downfalls all in one little gathering. And that is something that sums up Jamaica so much, because Spanish Town is a hub. So many people pass through Spanish Town on the daily that you can almost, if you want to do a study of Jamaica, neighbor, you can carry it out down there.
A poll, if you want to know a poll of who will win the next election, go to Spanish Town. Yes.
But it says so much about it.
Yeah.
And it is no different from the issues of Cooper's Pen.
Yeah, and I'm asking you, Harry, though, but because Cooper's Pen is just probably a proxy here. How do we begin to address the whole matter of indiscipline? That is definitely a problem. The respect for the rule of law, because a lot of people, in commenting on this, clearly they don't respect. They did not grow up in a society where the rule of law was respected, and therefore it has shaped their thinking.
Yeah, they have learned not to abide by the law.
Right.
And they've learned that the system doesn't work for them.
Yes.
Right? And we have to understand, if you look at the demography of these people, right, you will get to understand why we have a serious problem. Because these aren't the people, as Mark Golding would say, Tapanari's friend, them, you know. These are actually Jamaicans who, for some reason or whatever it may be, because we all have different circumstances, was not, I'd say, given a gold spoon, or they came from humble beginnings. And while they're trying to make it, they realize that the very system that should have empowered, protect, and develop them failed them from birth. And as such, the natural action is to go against it. And we see how very ingenious Jamaicans can be when they are going around the law, right? We're very ingenious when it comes down to that.
I'd love to hear, I'd love to hear Scratchy on this. I really would. I know. I think he did social work, and so he understands the nuances here a little bit better. But interestingly, Harry, the learned behavior of the society, the learned behavior that the system, you have to find a way around the system, is manifesting itself here at Cooper's Pen, you know, and in the discussions that we're having. Because very, very, very few people are understanding that there is the law, there is the executive, there is compassion or morality, and you have to separate all of these things. And what is embarrassing and even very disappointing is that you have somebody like Mr. Jackson, who should know better, who, you know, is falling into the same trap, including Miss Nikisha Burchell, Isaac Buchanan, and even the leader of the opposition himself. Very disappointing, Harry.
It is, neighbor. And you say the thing about it, Mr. Jackson have the years under his belt, but may not have the legal understanding for it. But he does have a leader who knows the law.
Yeah.
And he has a member in Isaac Buchanan who understands the law. But then again, him drawing his conclusions, neighbor, having seen these two men who understand the law, right, who have taken the bar and passed, giving irresponsible and downright almost treasonous recommendations to the people, then I can't say Mr. Jackson can provide anything different. Because if the technocrat or the experts, right, is giving that advice, then if I don't know it, then I probably should be absolved from the ignorance of whatever I put forward. That is their thinking, you know. And it cannot. It truly cannot, neighbor. And we need a cultural change. And the thing about it is that to change behavior is so hard, neighbor.
I know, sir. I know.
In fact, imagine this. And I can put it to anybody who is listening. If you are somebody who drinks a lot of soda, I'm keeping it simple, spend the next 21 days intentionally.
Don't drink any. It's almost impossible.
And if you are successful in a neighbor, look at this. If you're successful to do it for the 21 days, you've now created a new habit. Try undo the new habit and see what happens.
Yes, it's fascinating.
This is what we need to understand about it. It is a very hard cultural change. And understanding, neighbor, there's a cultural, a generation overlap of this cultural behavior. So you're not only just dealing with one generation, you know. You're dealing with the generation who is doing it and the generation that they learned it from. So we're in a more than just a pickle. And while we see some changes are happening, neighbor, it's going to take a far lot more work to be done. It has to be intense. We have to do it with great intent. And the truth about it, stop and look for the government. I'm speaking to Jamaicans. Stop look for the government to carry out this change. Start it from the homes, right? Teach, who maybe can correct the older generation because the horse has flown the gate. But we can create our new norms. We can create new culture, one that befits the Jamaica that we want to see, whether or not we're going to be here to see it.
Very true.
Start it from now. so that as it goes along, neighbor, people catch on. Morality stands again. Go ahead, Robert.
Yeah, I agree with you, but I'm looking also at it. That is how probably Lee Kuan Yew, no, his country so strive because he makes sure that the young people, as you said, the horse has gone through the gate to the older, but the young people, he makes sure that they are disciplined, even though it was hard. I know that he may have gotten a lot of curse and said, but his leadership, his dictatorial or whatever the issue may, but at the end of it all, now people realizing that what he was doing, it was for the betterment for the country and for future generation. And I want to see that, it may rough, some laws may be tough, but if we want to for a better society, we have to put our shoulder to the wheel.
I have Miss Chin on the other, hold on the other page. Two callers over there. Hello, Miss Chin. Hello. I'm not so sure what's happening. Good night, caller. Griffiths, good night. Well, I'm running 2 pages tonight on TikTok, and there are 2 callers. Blueberry, I don't know if you could unmute. What is that? I'm not so sure what's happening. Ignatius Griffiths, good night. Hello? No, none of them are talking to me. All right. Yeah, I think that's going to have to take us out then. Harry, we have to continue the discussion and the educating of people. Sometimes it feels burdensome, but we have to continue, eh?
Oh, we definitely have to, neighbor. And the truth, I looked at it. I did a little introspection in terms of from last week coming into this week, neighbor. Well, this week has almost ended. And I got a little emotional, and I don't tend to normally get that.
Oh.
Because I felt burdened, neighbor, to see what Jamaicans are allowing. It let it feel as if all the fights and all the push, all the dedication that have been put into it, the work that has been put into it, it's almost like Jamaicans are tolerating substandard, which undo that work. And I can say this proudly, neighbor. I am still very young. But this fight that people are now joining, I've been doing it from the age of 13.
Oh, wow.
Because I was born around it, neighbor. I was writing papers on how to help Jamaica develop when I was in 5th form.
What you saying to me?
Right? I remember when the primary school had a competition and said, who would we recommend to be the next prime minister and why? Do a paper on it.
Yes.
And the neighbor had a month to do it, and I spent 20 consecutive days doing research.
Wow.
And I recommended one man, and I gave almost all the things he did in governance.
You mind telling us who that was?
Everybody should know who it was, neighbor.
Wow.
Because only one man speaks of vim, vitality, and vigor.
Edward Philip.
Everybody put Bob Marley because of music. Very few persons understood what it means to look at the economics and how to properly develop a country. Neighbor, I wrote paper on when they were studying how to utilize the red mud from the bauxite so we can reduce the waste. I looked at how climate change would have affected us. I never did agriculture, but I did geography. And as a country boy, I looked at how hydroponics worked At the age of 13, studied it. I studied the Canadian prairies.
What you saying to me?
To understand how it worked and hoping that one day Jamaica could adopt some of these ideas, because you don't have to reinvent the wheel at all.
Wow.
The USA is going to be 250 years, and there's a lot of things we could have taken from them. I've learned that you don't have to go through the same thing somebody else does to learn.
You don't have to reinvent the wheel at all.
Neighbor, all you have to do is process improvement. Ensure it's applicable to the majority, because it won't always fit everybody. That is life. And I look at all of these things and I just felt overwhelmed on that day, neighbor. I actually took an hour out of work to just, not do anything.
Oh.
And it hurt, neighbor, when I know well-thinking Jamaicans who are well ahead of me, right, sits idly by, some hoping for a miracle. The miracle you're looking for and the change you're looking for, you can be it. Just start. It shouldn't be that somebody like myself should be fighting this fight at this juncture. Right? It can be disheartening, and I send the message to all those who are committed to the fight, who are patriots of Jamaica, who truly want to see Jamaica succeed. You will have moments like that, but embrace it, stick through it, and continue. Because if you stop, you don't know who is looking while you're doing what you're doing. Those who draw motivation from you, they don't have to know if you're weary or not. You may inspire someone. So even the bloggers, neighbor, they may not understand how much and what large capacity and impact they have on people. You do have that. Your impression on people speaks volumes, and these things in conversations actually move the needle. Neighbor, within that time, I sat and I was listening to George Davis, and I sent him a message. I thank him for being the man that he is and how he upholds journalism, proper journalism. Because there's not a lot of people out there in that space who is helping Jamaica. And people will say, politically affiliated or whatever. No. The end result that people are seeking while we have conversations that matter on this program is to achieve the bigger picture for Jamaica. And I'll say boldly with my chest, if that makes anyone says you are politically affiliated, then I'm proud to be so. Because that gets Jamaica not a seat at the table, not back on the map, but to stand firm, to stand boldly, and can command a room despite being a small nation. That is the end result we want to see for Jamaica. But we can't do it if we tolerate and allow substandards to wreak havoc throughout society, and we sit idly by. Because we should not be giving Nikisha Burchell, Isaac Buchanan, Mark Golding, Fitz Jackson, and all those persons who know better. They should not get an ounce of time. But instead, we see that running right throughout the media. And it's about time we take control of that narrative, because it's going to hold Jamaica back and make the fight harder, make the recovery of Jamaica harder. And we should not be doing so. We should not be fighting against ourselves to improve ourselves. And I leave it there, neighbor.
Well, that is fantastic. The listeners want to know which is the name of the person you named in your sixth form paper.
And the grade six paper?
Yeah.
It was Edward George Phillips Yaga, neighbor.
I
had very good information on him. my father knew him very well.
Don't say nothing more. Don't say nothing more. tell them to look out for the podcast. Look out for the podcast. Okay.
I should definitely do something on that in a neighbor.
Yeah, man. Let's do so. I'll call you. You hear?
Yes, neighbor.
All right. Hold on there. Portia Tony Spallings did violent cleansing of the people in Kingston, Spanish Town. Road Tavares Gardens by political victimization, tribalism, introduction of Garrison politics. Winston Stephen on YouTube. Please be advised that there are other who know things that you people don't know. Sometimes I laugh at how you people sound. I realize that you people not hearing yourself. That is Paul Surgeon. Who am I? Jamaica needs a better city and parish organization. We need parish governors. This MP thing has failed us. All right, who am I? Okay, why do we need hydroponics in a tropical country? Who am I? Hydroponics is for Mars and desert land. Jamaica is a tropical country. We need no hydroponic. Wow. And a couple more.
Before you go on, you see?
Uh-huh.
Let me just address that individual quickly. Understand that the land that was here 30 years ago compared to now is more fertile. We have to move. We don't have enough lands to produce in the manner we need to. And as such, you have to be smarter. You have to be more resourceful. Because things like hydroponics takes up less land and yield better quality food. And that person needs to educate themselves as to how those things work.
Uh-huh. All right, caller. Winston Stephen. I'm always impressed with Harry. I share his thinking, mindset, philosophy. Lee Kuan Yew achieved maximum success of capitalism, discipline, rule of law, accountability, productivity, prosperity, and growth surplus. Okay. All right. That's it for the comments coming up on YouTube. Thank you, Winston Stevens. Thank you, Keisha. Thank you, who am I? Thank you. Okay, thank you. Okay, YouTube, thank you so much. Please remember to subscribe, to like, to share the channel, and also to watch the replays. And when you're watching the replays, do not skip the ads, okay? Don't skip them. That is the best you can do for the Politics Plus Matter, Politics Matter Jamaica Network. Until we join you again tomorrow, have a fantastic rest of the night. Please remember that you could support us, and you ought to, by sending a contribution to our Zelle account 954-635-8732. That is, let me go slow for you, 954-635-8732. Until we join you again tomorrow, have a fantastic Friday night, and take good care of yourselves. Okay, bye-bye.